So as you all remember, in fashion there are trends, and then there are revolutions. Designers who don't just launch collections, but reshape the way people see style, identity, and cultural power. And few figures in modern fashion carry as much mystique and as much debate as Rick Owens. Born in the United States and rising to prominence in the 1990s, Rick Owens built a career on aesthetics that many describe as raw, brutal, and boundary-pushing. His work is dark, sculptural, sometimes unsettling, and endlessly influential. But the story behind the garments, the runway, and the loyal following is far more complex than what meets the eye. Before we dive deeper into this world, if you're fascinated by hidden power dynamics in fashion, culture, and influence, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a breakdown that goes beyond the surface. Rick Owens isn't a designer who chases trends. He creates worlds. His runway shows are not just presentations of clothing. They function like performances. Models walk in silence, sometimes barefoot, evoking ancient statues or dystopian visions. The palette is dominated by blacks, grays, and earth tones, almost as if a shadow has taken shape and walked onto the runway. Critics and fans alike have noted that his shows often blur the line between fashion and ritual. In the early 2000s, one particularly controversial show in Paris featured nude male models walking confidently down the catwalk before being joined by fully dressed models. A stark juxtaposition that sparked debates around vulnerability, masculinity, and the boundary between art and spectacle. Reports from the time pointed to uproar, admiration, and bewilderment in equal measure, and that moment became one of the most talked about in contemporary fashion history. Owens has never shied away from provocation. His work often plays with discomfort, not for shock value alone, but to challenge conventional beauty. Some describe his aesthetic as post-apocalyptic elegance, where drapery and deconstruction meet a stark, almost somber presentation. Fans of his work don't just buy clothes. They adopt an attitude, a posture, a visual identity that sets them apart from mainstream style. To understand Owens' influence, you have to look beyond the garments and into the culture that surrounds them. This is a world where fashion isn't just about looking good. It's about being understood by a specific kind of person. People who buy into Owens' aesthetic often describe it as a philosophy, a way of seeing the world through a lens that rejects softness and embraces a raw form of personal expression. And then there's the broader cultural context. In the late 2000s and 10s and into the 2020s, dark and avant-garde aesthetics have grown in popularity. What once might have been dismissed as niche or underground fashion has made its way into mainstream awareness. Rick Owens didn't just ride that wave, he helped shape it. His influence can be seen in high fashion houses incorporating draped silhouettes, deconstructed seams, and a kind of brutalist minimalism that feels both futuristic and primal. Of course, whenever a figure becomes iconic, speculation and symbolism follow. There have been conversations, some serious, others cultural metaphor, about the affinity certain groups have for occult-like symbols, ritualistic imagery, and the psychological pull of enigmatic aesthetics. Outside observers have noted that some fashion styles mirror symbols that have ancient or spiritual connotations, and that's where discussions become less about clothes and more about cultural psychology. For example, when people encounter imagery like pentagrams or inverted symbols on certain garments, the conversation often shifts from design to meaning. Some commentators, including personalities outside the fashion world, have connected such imagery to fascination with concepts like mysticism or the darker side of cultural expression. But it's important to draw a distinction here. Wearing a symbol or embracing a dark aesthetic is not evidence of belief or practice. Symbolism in fashion is often about evoking feeling, making a visual statement, or challenging norms, not literal spiritual alignment. Part of Rick Owens' power comes from this ambiguity. He doesn't explain his collections in simple terms. He allows the audience to interpret, and sometimes misinterpret, the work. That's why his fashion feels almost like a dialogue between designer and viewer, where meaning is not handed over on a silver platter, but felt and debated. Celebrities have gravitated to Owens' aesthetic too. Performers like Kanye West, Rihanna, and other cultural heavyweights have worn his designs, further amplifying his status. When a celebrity with global reach embraces a particular aesthetic, it doesn't just influence fashion, it influences identity. Suddenly, what was once underground becomes aspirational. This dynamic is key to understanding why Rick Owens' fashion empire feels bigger than clothes alone. His retail spaces and shows are also part of the mythos. Owens' boutiques often resemble sculptures more than stores. Concrete walls, dramatic lighting, and minimal signage create an atmosphere more akin to a temple or a bunker than a fashion shop. This carefully orchestrated environment reinforces the idea that his brand isn't merely about dressing the body, it's about shaping perception. And perception is a powerful thing. When a fashion house consistently challenges social expectations, breaks rules, and invites philosophical interpretation, it attracts a following that doesn't just buy garments, it adopts an identity. Rick Owens collectors often speak not just of clothing, but of a lifestyle, a worldview, a sense of belonging to something that exists outside the mainstream. That sense of belonging is not insignificant. In a world where personal expression has become more visual than ever, fashion can act like language. The way we dress communicates not just taste, but value systems, identity preferences, and emotional states. Rick Owens' dark, elongated silhouettes, layered draping, and aggressive tailoring speak to people who don't want to be seen as just another face in the crowd. They want to be recognized, not just noticed. And yet, even as his influence spreads, Owens remains something of an enigma. He doesn't court fame with flashy social media antics. He doesn't chase commercial trends. His shows remain discussions of shape and shadow rather than runway spectacles built around celebrity cameos or viral stunts. This restraint, this refusal to play the usual fashion game, actually fuels curiosity. When someone refuses to explain themselves, people lean in harder to interpret what's unsaid. In that way, Rick Owens himself becomes part of the narrative. He is not just a designer, he is a mood, a signature, a tone that refuses to be neatly categorized. That's why people talk about the Rick Owens world instead of the Rick Owens brand. There's a difference. A brand can be marketed, a world must be inhabited. It's also why his influence doesn't just stay in fashion circles. When musicians, actors, and cultural icons step into his designs, the aesthetic crosses into identity territory. What does it mean when a performer chooses to wear Rick Owens on stage? It means they're signing on to the visual language, the darkness, the structure, the statement that comes with it. It's a visual code that communicates independence, defiance, and a specific kind of confidence. But context matters. Rejecting mainstream brightness or bright colors doesn't automatically mean something occult or sinister. What Rick Owens represents in fashion is as much about contrarian expression as it is about aesthetic. It's about choosing to stand apart, to defy easy categorization, and to embrace an aesthetic that feels honest to a particular way of seeing the world. There's a lesson in that for all of us. Fashion is not just fabric, it's psychology. It reflects how we want to be seen, how we understand ourselves, and how we communicate identity without saying a word. Rick Owens understood this long before many of his contemporaries. He saw that clothing could be sculpture, armor, and narrative all at once, and he built an empire around it. So the question isn't just why do people follow Rick Owens? It's what does it say about us that we choose to follow? Is it rebellion? Is it identity? Is it an affinity for the avant-garde? Or is it simply appreciation for design that challenges the eye and the mind? Let me know what you think in the comments. Is Rick Owens a visionary shaping a new aesthetic language? Or is he simply a reflection of deeper cultural shifts we don't fully understand yet? If you want more deep dives into the people, movements, and ideas shaping the world beyond the headlines, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. We break down what they don't tell you so you can see the bigger picture.